9:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Something happening over the weekend? There was something. Where was that? Do you remember? You know what I'm talking about?
Something is ringing a bell. Something happened. Was it in South Carolina?
Yep.
Okay. What was it? What happened? What was going on there?
I think, if I recall correctly, Nikki Haley was trying to get independents and Democrats to vote for her in that primary. Right? I think that's what she was doing.
Yeah, this was the big surge weekend.
This was the weekend of the surge. That's right.
You've heard about the purge? No. This weekend,
this was
surge.
The surge. The surge didn't kick in. I don't know what happened. Nikki Haley losing once again to Donald Trump. This thing is over. She reminds me of, have you ever seen that South Park episode where Randy keeps getting into fights with other parents at softball games or like baseball games?
Yeah.
And he gets the crap kicked out of him, but then he'll get up and he'll try to do his best Rocky impersonation.
Yeah.
I didn't hear no bell. That's what Nikki Haley's doing. That's Nikki Haley this morning. She's been repeatedly knocked down. Republicans say they don't want her, and she says, I didn't hear no bell. I didn't hear no bell. And in her string of lackluster social media posts, she once again posted something that was just like, what are you doing? She posted basically a campaign ad celebrating second place on social media.
Today in South Carolina, we're getting around 40% of the vote.
Do you hear the music? Do you hear the music in the background?
Yeah.
This is so upbeat and inspirational, and it starts with we're not hitting the halfway mark.
Today in South Carolina, we're getting around 40% of the vote.
Not
That's
gonna cut
about what we got in New Hampshire, too. I'm going to count it. I know 40% is not 50%, but I also know 40% is not some tiny group.
No, there was actually quite a bit of Democrats and independents jumping in to help out. Also, not to be a stickler, not going to be a stickler, not going to, play this kind of game. It was 39.5.
There are huge numbers of voters in our Republican primaries who are saying they want an alternative. I said earlier this week that no matter what happens in South Carolina, I would continue to run for president.
Yep.
I'm a woman of my word. I'm not giving up this fight when a majority of Americans disapprove of both Donald Trump and Joe Biden. South Carolina has spoken. We're the fourth state to do so.
South Carolina has spoken. Yep, they sure did. And you are not listening. Once again, Nikki Haley's not listening to the voters. And listen, she is spending so much money to lose. Like, she makes a big deal. Like, Trump is going to use your donations on legal fees. It's like, all right, but you've used $76.4 million in South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Iowa in losses. So, I don't know about you. I would have rather that money gone to Trump's legal fees. I feel like it would have been a better use of money. Nikki Haley wasted $76.4 million in losing efforts to Trump in Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. Just for everybody keeping score at home, she also lost to no names given in Nevada. I mean, it's a massive amount of money to spend in the first three primaries of the 2024 cycle. And it shows that Trump has a base that is not going anywhere. And listen, she can say 40%, that's not a small number. All right, well, let's check in. Do you want to check in with some South Carolina voters? I feel like we should check in with some South Carolina voters, all right? Let's go with the first guy who identifies himself as a conservative.
Well, I voted for Trump because I trust him more than I do Haley.
Okay. So that was a lot of the sentiment. Let's check in with a Haley voter.
I voted for Nikki Haley, simply to, maybe cancel out one of the Donald Trump votes. And that is because this is heavy Donald Trump support in our state. I don't understand it.
I don't understand it. Got to cancel out that Trump support. Her little chyron, that voter, said Democrat voter. Democrat. So they're voting in the primaries just to cancel out Donald Trump, like we've seen in New Hampshire. Like, come on. Is this not an argument against open primaries? Listen, Nikki Haley needs to drop out. Even her biggest supporters, Americans for Prosperity, have realized that this is a losing battle. Americans for Prosperity is run by the Koch brothers, okay? That is as old school establishment neocon Republican as you can get. And the Koch brothers have decided, we can't waste our money like this anymore. And they have ceased its financial support for her campaign. I'll tell you this much. When I saw that Americans for Prosperity endorsed Nikki Haley, I came on the air here and I said, why would you do that? There was never going to be a situation where Nikki Haley is going to surprise people and become the nominee. It was a lousy idea to endorse her publicly. If you want to secretly slide money her way, I get it. Koch brothers are going to do what Koch brothers do. That is their candidate. She's military-industrial complex, old school neocon, loves war. It fits in line with everything that they do. But why endorse her publicly? It hurts your brand. Seriously. I mean, does Americans for Prosperity have a brand? I think that could be discussed. In this area, we haven't really heard much about them until the school choice stuff came up. But when you go out on a limb and endorse Nikki Haley, that's not a good look. Trump sent out a truth. He said, Americans for No Prosperity just announced that they are no longer supporting Nikki Brain Dead, and then in parentheses, Bird Brain, with a question mark. That's why I said Bird Brain. That was in parentheses, Haley. Charles Koch and his group got played for suckers right from the beginning. Got played, homie. Not a good look. The Post-Millennial has an article on this. It says the influential conservative organization, Americans for Prosperity Action, which had been backing Nikki Haley in the Republican presidential primary, has decided to cease its financial support for her campaign. Politico had the scoop, obtaining an internal email. Do you want to hear the email from AFP?
Yes, please.
First and foremost, thank you. It's a good solid start. For the past several months, you've sacrificed a lot to lead AFP Action's early state strategy in the presidential primary and to support our earliest endorsement efforts ever in key Senate and House races. Over 3 million contacts. Incredible. Thank you. With every door you've knocked, every phone call you've made, AFP's Action's grassroots capability has grown stronger. Not only will these efforts pay off in November. Wait, these efforts will pay off in November? It's like your guy lost. Anyway, but they help ensure that AFP Action is a force to be reckoned with for years to come. With our early state strategies in Iowa, New Hampshire, and now South Carolina behind us, the Senate contests start taking shape. It's time to assess where we are in our broader 2024 strategy. So they say our early state strategies in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. Okay, so are you going to change strategy? Like completely? Because those strategies were fruitless. They say when we launched AFP Action in 2024's election strategy, it had 3 prongs: the Republican presidential primary, the U.S. Senate, and the U.S. House. As we said last year, this gives us 3 ways to win, 3 opportunities to prevent the greatest threat from this election cycle: one-party progressive rule and resulting damage to our system of constitutionally limited government. Each of these 3 prongs has its own timelines and likelihood of success. But listen, they backed Nikki Haley. Their strategy failed. And even in this email where they're admitting that their strategy fails, they say, AFP Action stands firm behind our endorsement for Nikki Haley. Okay, you're standing firm behind your endorsement. You're just not backing it up with any money any longer. They say it takes a special leader with conviction, resolve, and steel in her spine to jump into a tough race with a narrow path. Nikki Haley's been willing to take on that challenge and offer America a forward-looking vision and solutions to the toughest issues our country faces. She is by far the best candidate to turn the page on our dysfunctional politics and take our country in a new, positive direction. As we've discussed since the endorsement in November, we knew the presidential primary faced the longest odds, but we also knew, given what's at stake, we couldn't sit on the sidelines. So they're shifting focus. They're trying to say that Nikki Haley's still the woman for the job. We're just not going to be supporting her financially any longer. And, let's focus on the Senate and the House. I don't know. Listen, if I was a candidate and AFP wanted to endorse me, I would run. I would run. I would. I would run. When prominent Democrats are also endorsing the candidates that you endorse, it's not a good look. Gavin Newsom was talking about Nikki Haley over the weekend.
You want Joe Biden to win. Do you think that Haley or Trump would be easier to beat for him?
Well, first of all, I think she's one of our better surrogates, so I hope she stays in. Hope she does well tomorrow.
All the nasty stuff she says about Trump.
She's spot on 99% of it. So I'm enjoying this primary, and I hope it continues. So I wish her luck.
So AFP and Gavin Newsom all really like Nikki Haley. It's amazing to me. Gavin had more to say about Nikki Haley. He actually says, whether or not anybody wants to admit it, AFP, Trump is the nominee.
But look, Trump's the nominee. We all know that. You know that. Everybody out there knows that. And I think the polls are suggestive. She's going to get well up tomorrow. And then she'll make a case, I guess, just to continue in this.
I mean, she'll make a case, I guess. I guess.
He's like, that's what she does, so she's going to do that, I guess.
Even Gavin Newsom says she's going to get walloped.
Ugh.
Walloped. Yeah, she did. She got walloped. I wish they put this in the little social media ad for Nikki Haley.
But look, Trump's the nominee. We all know that. You know that. Everybody out there knows that. And I think the polls are suggestive. She's going to get well up tomorrow.
She's going to get walloped. Meanwhile, Nikki Haley is just...
Today in South Carolina, we're getting around 40% of the vote.
Woo! 40%,
yeah.
Baby. 40%. Are you kidding?
39.5.
39.5. Is that what it still is? It's still 39.5?
I haven't. I'm going off what you said. I'll look right
I'm pretty sure it was 39.5. I'm just gonna stick with that. Gavin Newsom says he wants Haley to continue, though, but he knows what time it is.
I have no problem with her continuing for as long as she wishes, because I think she's making a good case against Trump.
Head-to-head polls suggest that she would clean Biden's clock. Yeah. And it's a tougher race.
Trump's the nominee. Everybody knows Trump's the nominee.
Yep.
So
there's not a state that, with respect, there's no evidence to suggest, there's no polling to suggest, there's nothing to suggest, momentum or otherwise, that she can win any state.
No momentum, no polling, nothing to suggest she could win any state. It's a surge. I like how he cuts off Tapper. Tapper says to him, listen, we have polling that says she would clean Biden's clock. He's like, listen, Trump's the nominee. Thanks. Trump is the nominee. This is where we are. Larry on the Members Nutrition Super Text line said 40% of the vote would be something if there were 4 or 5 candidates running. 40% of the vote when it's head-to-head runoff doesn't mean anything except loser. Todd says, who's here early? Todd's here early. Todd's one of our favorite mailmen. Said 39.5% of the Democratic vote in the Republican primary. Yep.
Bingo.
Also, I think Todd is a little biased because they've been the guys out there with the Nikki Haley AFP flyers going door to door. So I feel for all my mailmen out there, but just know that the flyering has ceased to exist for Nikki Haley.
We're ending the surge soon.
The surge of mail-ins. It's done. We're not sending out any more flyers. So after $76 million in wasted money in South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Iowa, Nikki Haley gets another L. And then one of her biggest financial backings, AFP, the Koch brothers, they said, yeah, we're not going to spend our money there anymore either. But Nikki Haley to her credit. She's like the guy in Monty Python who's had her arms cut off and her legs cut off. He's like, it's a flesh wound.
Yeah, it's a flesh
this
wound.
is nothing. What are you talking about? It's just a flesh wound. So she will persist. It's 9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Paul Winkler and Paul Winkler Inc. I have my wife and my 4 wonderful kids, and we didn't have a financial plan for the future. So you know financial stability is a big priority, whether you have kids or not, thinking about what you're going to do when you retire, all of the variables that are out there. How do you make this plan? Well, we didn't know where to start. But I did know that I've been listening to Paul's radio show since I moved to Nashville some years ago. And after starting to work here, I was like, great, I get to link up with Paul. And I'll tell you this much. If you've ever listened to his show, he's the same guy that you hear on the air. Smart, honest, legit. And that's why I'm all in with Paul and his team. Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required. It's just what they do. Because of that, government regulators make me tell you I'm paid that this commercial's airing. And that's the truth. But it's because I got to sit down with Paul, have my questions answered honestly, that I decided to become a client myself. And I'm telling you, I'm impressed. Paul's a smart guy. He knows the financial world better than I do. And with Paul and his team, nothing is done on commission. I'll say it again. With Paul and his team, nothing is done on commission. You can be sure that the financial advice they're giving you is for you and not for their bottom line, because nothing is done on commission. They are big on education, though, and he's made my financial goals more realistic by explaining what to do and why, and he can do the exact same thing for you with his investment education that is evidence-based and backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. Check these guys out. Every office is run by a degree planner with over 20 years of experience, and that experience is the difference. So talk to one of his team members. Set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call right now on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com, or call 615-851-1950.
Pothole patching, 40 eastbound, just past the I-440 exit 206. Department of Health confirming more bad news about the flu season in Tennessee. Details at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You know, Gavin Newsom wasn't only taking aim at Nikki Haley over the weekend. He also was defending Joe Biden, but taking aim at DJT. He didn't have many nice things to say about DJT. Did you know that? Not a fan.
Not a fan.
No, he's not.
Do you believe that Democrats are underestimating Trump in this moment, his strength potentially in a general election?
I think he's weakness masquerading as strength.
Oh, he's weakness masquerading as strength.
I think he's more unhinged. He's less interesting than he was even a few years ago. I mean, you've heard his comments just this week. More just overt racist comments that he's made. It's just extraordinary how quickly he is unraveling in real time.
He's just an overt racist. This is what they have against Trump. Did I mention that he's an overt racist? And then he started talking like a computer at the end. Did you catch that? Did you hear that?
How quickly he is unraveling in real time.
Yeah.
Like, quick, remember all the notes that they uploaded. Quick. And then, Trump is an overt racist, and Biden is actually doing everything he needs to be doing.
These voters, though, are not complaining about his record. They're talking about concerns about his ability to beat Trump, who you've called a threat, essentially, to the democracy. But in private, we've heard a lot of his allies say publicly, in private, he is strong. He's in command.
Yeah.
He's forceful. Does he need to do more to show?
I think he's doing everything he needs to do.
He's doing everything he needs to do.
Bingo.
He's got a great record.
Yeah, just doing everything he needs to do. What exactly? Well, a lot of stuff.
All the things. You've seen them. We've all seen them.
Yeah, all
It's
the
working.
stuff.
Yeah, everybody knows. But he goes on. He goes on to say that his record is, and I quote, extraordinary. And he's successful because of his age.
I mean, he's got an extraordinary record. He's doing everything he needs to do on Ukraine at the moment. He's doing everything he needs to do to reconcile and wrestle some common sense as it relates to a bipartisan approach to address the issue of the border, where the Republicans couldn't take yes for an answer.
I will say this slimy used car salesman known as Gavin Newsom, he is smooth. The way he frames that, the border deal where Republicans couldn't take yes for an answer. For your low IQ voter out there, they're going to gravitate to that and they're going to sink their teeth into it. I bet you're going to hear this line with a lot of Democrats moving forward.
Where the Republicans couldn't take yes for an answer because they don't want to make that a political issue. He is leading. And so, no, from my humble perspective, not only the last 3 years have been extraordinary. I've been out with, as you know, on the campaign trail. I was just out in California. I've seen him up close. I've seen him from far. But here's my point. It's because of his age that he's been so successful.
Okay. It's because of his age. He also talked like a computer right there as well.
It's because of his age that he's been so successful.
Yep. All right. Just know that if you're keeping score at home. That's why he's successful. It's 9:30 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got that pothole patching going on, 40 eastbound, right there past I-440, exit 206. Those are rolling roadblocks. They've got the left two lanes blocked. Right now in Tennessee, the Department of Health confirming a fifth child has died from the flu so far this flu season. Here in Nashville, an active investigation in Bellevue where Fox 17 says police were called to the Circle K on Highway 70 after a man walked in this morning with a gunshot wound to the neck. A manhunt's underway in Stewart County, about 87 miles northwest of Nashville. News 2 says emergency management posted to Facebook this morning. The highway patrol is helping to find a man whom law enforcement says is dangerous. The suspect identified as Edward Lovett, who they think is somewhere in the Highway 120 area. He apparently got away from a traffic stop. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
9:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, Mac Maury producing, Ken Weaver in the newsroom, and you on the phone lines and the Members Nutrition Super Text line at 615-737-9986. I'd love to get your thoughts on this next thing we're going to talk about. Vaccine veggies. Have you heard about the vaccine veggies?
I have.
What is going on? I have some thoughts. What have you heard about vaccine veggies?
UC Berkeley doing a study making lettuce, putting vaccines into lettuce. That's pretty much all I've seen.
So I've heard it's tomatoes, potatoes,
Nice.
lettuce, and tobacco. Oh, and bananas and corn.
And tobacco.
Yeah.
What about
Interesting.
tomatoes?
Tomatoes are there. Tomatoes count. And potatoes. I assume they only included potatoes because they wanted to make sure they got the Irish.
And Idaho.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, here's what happened. Over the weekend, this was going viral. Scott Sapicki, Tennessee State Senator, was on the floor talking about, hey, we should have some sort of warning if we got vaccines in our veggies.
Example of a food that's a vaccine?
You recognize? Yes, sir. University of California, Riverside has already perfected the ability to put human vaccines into our lettuce right now. Also tomatoes has the ability to do that also for UC Berkeley. And then Big Tobacco, RJ Reynolds and stuff has perfected the ability to put a human vaccine into tobacco products.
Vaccines in your food, in tobacco. On the Members Nutrition Super Text line, 9495 said, thank God, finally my cigarettes are good for me. Take it easy there, fella. But here's the thing that we're not really discussing is dosage. Why? I think starting with why would be much more productive. Why? Why are they doing this? And Scott Sapicki, to his credit, making a lot of people aware about this issue, but he's not trying to have it banned. He wants a warning label on the veggies.
And is that even legal to do in the state of Tennessee, to sell those with a vaccine in them?
You recognize? Well, I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying is there is no law deeming those that when you go into a grocery store, you should know as a consumer, this head of lettuce is a head of lettuce. The head of lettuce right next to it could contain a vaccine in it. All we're saying is if it does have the vaccine in it, make sure it's listed as a pharmaceutical so people can get the proper dosage.
Oh, so if the vaccine's in it, we just have to make sure it's listed as a pharmaceutical so the people get the right dosage. Now, no. In fact, I think that this should be banned completely in the United States. You shouldn't be able to get a vaccine unless you're with a doctor or at a pharmacy for a flu shot. And why they're rushing this when they rush the COVID vaccines out, and then we find out after the fact, oh, by the way, slight chance in myocarditis, slight chance for pericarditis, all of the issues that are coming that they call this conspiracy theorists for. Now they want to put this in our food supply. It's been rumored for a while that they want to put it in our food supply, the meat, the veggies, but now we're hearing it right here on the floor, saying it's going to be in lettuce. UC Berkeley is doing the study. There's also research conducted at UC San Diego and Carnegie Mellon University. They're saying ideally a single plant would produce enough mRNA to vaccinate a single person. Oh, yeah. It's the mRNA vaccines, the same ones that we don't have long-term data available on because, they just started being introduced a couple years ago. And now they want to put it in our food. Hard pass. Ideally, a single plant would produce enough mRNA to vaccinate a single person. They say that they're testing this approach with spinach and lettuce and have long-term goals of people growing it in their own gardens. They want you to grow the vaccine food. Farmers could eventually grow entire fields of it. The ability to reproduce mRNA vaccines in plants is a technology that's not completely at a commercial scale yet. But they're working on it. and it's being tested. This is scary stuff. How does this play out? Honestly. And Sapicki's worried about dosage. Like, yeah, how much of a vaccine is too much of a vaccine in a veggie? Is my kid going to OD if he finishes mom's salad? Am I going to be informed if a restaurant has vaccine veggies? I'll be honest with you. This is actually infuriating to me because I went to great lengths to avoid taking this vaccine in the first place. And I'm not going to take the vaccine. I don't think there's enough data on the mRNA side of it. There's no long-term studies. And now they want to make sure it's labeled in stores when it's in your food. Now, what Sapicki should have done, instead of basically leaning into a consumer protection bill, as he put it, would be saying, we want this banned outright in the United States. I don't know. Maybe this is why Bill Gates is buying up all the farmland. Because they're going to introduce pharmaceuticals into our food supply. It's insane. This is one of the most insane stories, period. And it's another one that the conspiracy theorists were right about. This has been a conspiracy on the internet for a while, that they would introduce these vaccines into our food supply. So, chalk another win up on the board for conspiracy theorists. I'm gonna try and reach out to Sapicki. I just followed him on Twitter last night. I want to get his take on this because I think that it's important to hear where he's coming from. Maybe he wanted to come to the floor and basically educate people of what's actually happening and get the conversation out there. And if that was what his goal was, great. If he really thinks that the important aspect of this is to label the vegetables as pharmaceuticals instead of banning them outright in our grocery stores in Tennessee and in America, then I think that we have to have a different conversation. Because this is just another instance where the American food supply gets to be poked and prodded, and I doubt they'll ever let this fly in Europe. Our food supply has so many ingredients that aren't allowed in many other countries because of the dangers in them, from the dyes to the preservatives, all of it. And now we're going to get vaccines in our food. Wild. 7351 said, I haven't eaten any veggies in 2 years on the Members Nutrition text line.
Well, I don't think they have vaccines in them yet. I think the veggies are safe now. 7351.
That's what they want us to think. I mean, it's just insane. Or would you want to take your mRNA vaccine via veggie?
I'd need so much more information than there is right now. But a million things more that I don't know. So many questions.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
And then, even from a parent perspective, okay, so I know that I should buy the non-mRNA vaccinated bananas. Okay? What happens if my kid goes to another kid's house and they have vaccinated bananas? Are you kidding? There's so many more questions from this than are answered in this clip that's circulating on the internet. It's insane. This should be banned outright. And the fact that he said that he wants it to be labeled as a consumer protection bill because of dosage. That was it. That was Sapicki's area of focus.
You recognize? Well, I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying is there is no law deeming those that when you go into a grocery store, you should know as a consumer this head of lettuce is a head of lettuce. The head of lettuce right next to it could contain a vaccine in it. All we're saying is if it does have the vaccine in it, make sure it's listed as a pharmaceutical so people can get the proper dosage.
Make sure it's listed so that way we can get the proper dosage. On the NIH website, nih.gov, they have a whole page on edible vaccines. They do. Potatoes, tomatoes, bananas, corn, rice, spinach. It can all be somehow turned into a vaccine. But don't worry, guys. It'll be labeled, right? This is the thing it's such a fallacy. Like, cool, it's labeled in the grocery store. Is it going to be labeled at the restaurant? When Cisco brings the food, is Cisco going to be bringing the, mRNA rice or the non-vaccinated rice? Honestly. And NIH tries to sell it as, there's a lot of advantages to vaccinating food. Because it would, and I quote, this is from the NIH.gov website, edible vaccines would enhance compliance, especially in children. That's from NIH.gov under advantages for edible vaccines. Edible vaccines would enhance compliance, especially in children. Compliance. That's what this is about. Just again, on the NIH website, when they're selling the advantages on edible vaccines, in the first sentence, it says edible vaccines would enhance compliance, especially in children. I honestly don't like these people at all. If you trust this, then we have to have more of a conversation. If you trust this, then you might be too far gone, because this seems like one of the most dangerous things that could possibly be done to our food supply. And they're not even having these discussions out in the open about it. They're all backdoor meetings. It's already on the NIH website that, this will bring up compliance. They don't care about what you think. They definitely don't care about what your religious exemptions might be when it comes to these vaccines, or what your, religious objections may be. But, hey, take an mRNA banana, right? Unbelievable. This is the stuff that should infuriate you. And if Scott Sapicki's your guy, he's, give him a call. Tell him what you think about this. But they look at these development of edible vaccines as high volume, low cost delivery. They said it would be like 2 cents on a banana. 2 cents. It is so scary. And they don't even care. They're not thinking about the risks. Shoot, we haven't even found out all the risks from the last vaccine they told us was safe and effective. Those are still coming out. And now they want to talk about mRNA in your veggies. Get lost. It's honestly, as a parent, as a grandparent, this should infuriate you. It's 9:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. Listen, the guys at USS, they do so much, and it's more than just waterproofing your basement or crawl space. It's more than just crawl space encapsulation. They can honestly fix so much, like concrete leveling. Do you notice sidewalks or steps sinking on your property? Are your porch steps tilted? Has your sidewalk or patio shifted? Well, if any of these things are happening, you should check out the United Structural Systems Polylift system. It's actually less expensive than concrete replacement. It has higher load capacity than the traditional approach, such as mud jacking, and it changes no color in your concrete. It doesn't damage your grass or your landscaping, and the work can be completed in a couple of hours. And then you can walk on it immediately, drive on it in 30 minutes, and it doesn't create any unsightly patches or blemishes. It's moisture resistant. The polyurethane will not wash out over time, and the polyurethane foam is environmentally friendly and does not degrade or leach into the ground. That's why the guys at USS guarantee their best, and they take the stress out of home repair. The United Structural System guys, they're proud of the work they do, but they tell me, you don't know you need it until you know you need it. So walk around your property. Do you notice cracks in your foundation? Are you noticing that sinking sidewalk, those sinking steps? Maybe you're just tired of staring at that sinkhole on your property. If you have any of those issues, call USS and have them take a look. They'll come and make a custom plan for you with a solution that is unique to your home. 615-488-7855. With 25,000 satisfied customers, you can be confident you will be satisfied as well. Call USS today, 615-488-7855, or online at ussTN.com.
Fixing potholes. Got rolling roadblocks I-40 eastbound, this time at Jefferson Street, exit 207. It's stop-and-go traffic from 46th Avenue to 51st Avenue. This is interesting. Apparently, President Biden and former President Trump are heading to the southern border on the same day. Details at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Border duel. Are we doing it?
It's going to be a border battle.
A battle at the border.
Now, I like the duel better, though. That's actually more appropriate.
It'd be fun. Now, will they clean up the path for Trump heading to the border like they will for Biden? Or do we only have enough resources for one?
Very interesting.
It's interesting. We were talking about vaccines in your vegetables. And John, our friend John in Lawrenceburg, said about Sapicki. Chris, Sapicki does not have any authority across the country, but by bringing attention and suggesting them be labeled, he knows it will probably stop it from being done at all because of exposure. And Sapicki knows they won't declare dosage because of liability. He's smart to attack it this way. And I kind of said the same thing. If that is Sapicki's game plan, kudos. I'm happy that he brought it up because I think that attention needs to be on this. There's a lot of areas where things are happening and we are not paying the right attention to it. Speaking of which, Sarah Siegand is joining us from Parents Who Fight. She'll be in after the news with Ken Weaver to talk about what they were doing for the Keep Kids Safe Online Act, I believe is the correct term. I probably butchered it. Yeah, I butchered it. She just gave me the look. So we'll find out. What was it called? Here, just tell me.
Kids Online Safety Act.
The Kids Online Safety Act.
There we go.
Yeah. The quickest way to keep them safe online is to keep them offline. But we'll talk to Sarah Siegand and Parents Who Fight on the way. Hang out with us. It's 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. And breaking news, Fox News reporting President Biden and former President Trump set to make stops later this week along the U.S.-Mexico border. Biden goes Thursday, so does Trump. Biden to Brownsville to meet with Border Patrol agents, law enforcement, local leaders, the same day Trump delivers remarks in Eagle Pass, Texas. And former President Trump's appealing that $464 million judgment in that New York civil fraud case. It was filed the day after Judge Arthur Engoron made the ruling. And in the Israel-Hamas war, the White House saying a tentative agreement has been reached on the framework for a temporary ceasefire. Let's see how that works out. And in our nation's capital, Stephen Portnoy says the Supreme Court's hearing arguments today about what may be the most important First Amendment case of the Internet era.
The case involves state laws passed in the wake of the social media company's decision to ban Donald Trump after January 6th. The question for the court, does the First Amendment prohibit states from having power over the online firm's policies? Or do the nation's free speech traditions require that the companies permit political views to be shared without censorship?
Snow, rain, heat, and gloom of night are one thing, but the U.S. Postal Service creed says nothing about armed robbers. Jim Ryan says this year, criminals are the biggest threat to letter carriers.
8 months after putting on his Postal Service uniform for the first time.
My time has been good there. I've enjoyed the job very much.
But then came the day that Elias Lavario was confronted by a man on his delivery route.
He walked up to me as if he had a question.
The man pulled a gun and robbed him. The Postal Police Officers Association says robberies and deaths of letter carriers have risen 800% in the last 5 years.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Joined in studio by a guest that I'm very happy to have back, Sarah Segan from Parents Who Fight. What's up, Sarah?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back. Everybody liked our conversation the last time we had you guys on, and I kind of wanted to get an update on I needed an update on the title of the act as well.
You had the K right. I think it's the K that
it was like
throws people off.
KOSA is how I saw it abbreviated. And I was like, what is it?
What? Yes.
So tell us about that and where you guys stand.
Yeah. So most parents, which this is exciting that most parents actually realized that there was a big Senate Judiciary Committee hearing a few weeks back with the 5 big tech CEOs from social media. So it was X, TikTok, Meta, who's Facebook and Instagram, Zuckerberg, of course, the infamous Zuckerberg, Snap, and Discord. And that was January 31st. And so actually what was really amazing is we saw all of this effort to get parents, survivors, advocacy organizations to D.C. for the 2 days around the trial.
And these were the big hearings where Zuckerberg stood up and turned around and apologized to everyone.
Correct.
And you were there.
I was there. However, I personally didn't get into the room because I can explain those circumstances. But our team was there. So I had the privilege of supporting an amazing nonprofit, Wired Human. Everyone should check it out, wiredhuman.org. And they were setting up these, 2 days of advocacy, bringing students into to the table to talk about what their experiences are, which is, something that's not really part of the congressional discussion usually. And so Wired Human set up these 2 days of advocacy. And so the rest of our team was in the room when that happened. I was not in the room because I was basically chaperoning the 2 students from our team that got to do a live news interview with Fox News, which was across the street at the same time. So we took one for the team. We hoped that we could scurry over to the hearing and get a seat. But people may not realize it's one of, if not the largest attendance of that kind of a hearing.
Really?
And so prior to the doors opening, there's, hundreds of people waiting in line to get in. And once you get in, if you need to go to the bathroom or anything, you take all your stuff and you vacate your seat and they let one person in. So when we got over there after the news interview, there was still a long line of people. So it was it was a hard one for us. Like, we wanted to be there so bad. But we were communicating with the rest of our team that was in there and able to get, great information, boots on the ground, feedback about how all that went. But in essence, this hearing, the primary thrust of it was supposed to be discussion of child sexual abuse material on these platforms, which there definitely was plenty of that.
Yep.
But there was also a lot of grilling over all of the other things that these platforms allow. And at the point of the hearing, there are several online safety bills that have been written to protect kids. I mean, at least a dozen or more. Going from, things about like COPPA, the data privacy age, things about CSAM, there's a PROTECT Act, there's all these angles. But the Kids Online Safety Act is kind of one of the biggest pieces that everybody's putting their weight on right now, because there's the thought of, if we can't do this basic thing to protect kids online, none of these other things are going to get through. So we're putting all of our weight on it and trying to get it passed through the Senate. So on January 31st, when that all happened, we had 49 dedicated supporters of the Senate. So that's obviously not enough.
Yep.
So we've all been pushing. We got news about a week ago, which was huge, that since that hearing, an additional 13 senators have come on to support it, including Chuck Schumer. And he is basically has the reins of whether or not we get this to a full floor vote.
Okay.
He's the guy. And so everybody has been, putting pressure on him to get behind it. So when he did that, it was huge. And now we have enough that even with the filibuster rule, which I definitely could not articulate for you. I understand it, 20%. We have enough to get it passed if we can get it to a vote.
So explain, just for everybody keeping score at home, what the Kids Online Safety Act is.
Yes.
And what it entails.
So I have written my notes so I don't screw anything up. And it has, there have been a few amendments here and there to get more support. Compromise is always something that you have to do to get things passed, and not, I feel like the spirit of everything that we need is still there, and there's lots more legislation coming to tighten up some other things. But the Kids Online Safety Act would require tech companies to exercise reasonable care when designing features to avoid causing or exacerbating problems such as depression, bullying, and harassment. So think of features like the algorithm, the infinite scroll, how things are weighted and suggested to people. That's something that the companies are behind. It would limit who can talk to minors through their online account, which is huge. It would limit design features such as infinite scrolling. I just said that. Notifications that keep younger users online. It would make it easy for minors to delete their accounts or data. A lot of people don't realize it can be cumbersome. If you're like, I want to get my kid downloaded this thing, I want them off of it, I don't want this account to exist. It's a whole process. So
even when they created Threads, it linked to your Instagram account,
Correct.
and then you can't delete your Threads account without deleting your Instagram account.
Correct. Yeah. I know adults are like, can we get some of these protections?
Yeah.
But we're starting with minors. So it would make younger users' accounts default to the most protective privacy and safety settings. That would be across every platform. It would provide easy-to-use parental controls, including the ability to see and change your children's privacy settings. That is huge. When your children's privacy settings are an easy on and off switch, you get stuck in this power battle of, I want you to have a private account, and your kids say, no, I want it to be public. And that typifies a lot of high school. The kids are like, I don't want you to do that. Parents are like, I don't want you to do that. So you're going back and forth. It would allow parents to see the total time that children are spending on a platform and set restrictions. There are third-party tools that would tell you that. There's some of that is in your phone settings.
Baked into Apple's
right.
stuff.
But I think what that piece really provides is more transparency for parents to have a little bit of a wake-up call about what those numbers actually are.
Would it be more specific so you'd know which pages they're kind of going down the rabbit hole on?
That is undetermined. I highly doubt that they would get that specific. That would be a dream, but I wouldn't trust them to do something that cool. It would allow parents and educators to easily report harm to the companies. So that piece of it is really important, because while we were there, throughout those 2 days, we interfaced with so many parents, and their title during those 2 days were the parent survivors. And it was heartbreaking to watch parents milling around. I mean, everywhere you go, the cafeteria, the bathrooms, all throughout the Senate halls, with these big buttons of their children's faces who had died by suicide, who had died because of an online challenge, like a choking challenge. Maybe they were extorted.
There was the one kid that died from the spicy chip challenge.
Oh, I hadn't even heard that.
Yeah, it was like a TikTok challenge where you eat the spiciest chip.
Yeah, I've heard of the challenge, but I hadn't heard that somebody had died from it. I mean, it was emotionally very intense, those 2 days that we were there. And these parents are everywhere. And now I had my 19-year-old son. He was part of the youth advocacy team that Wired Human brought. And there were times where he would be standing right next to a mom who has a pin on her lapel of her kid's face and looks just like my kid did at 15, And there were many, many moments where I was like, my breath was taken away because, my kid is a great kid. He's a college freshman. I love him to pieces, and he has come so far. But not every kid starts there. Mm-hmm. And so we definitely had our challenges with, how to protect him well and him getting on board with that when he was in high school. And when none of us are advocating for your kids to be perfect kids, right? They're growing, so we got to help them. So just knowing that he's grown out of that now, and he had the opportunity to look back and reflect and say, wow, I actually was kind of stupid when I was in high school in allowing some of these influences into my life. And these parents didn't get the chance to see their kid grow past that and have that terrible experience in the rear view. And truthfully, when I think the Washington Post article about this new surge of support for COSA, they actually cited in their article that parents were really the ones that got so much surge in support. It was the parent stories, it was the parent advocacy over those 2 days that really made the biggest difference. So that's really powerful because those parents are turning their most difficult experience in life into action, and it really is going to help protect millions of kids.
We're talking with Sarah Siegand, who's with Parents Who Fight, who spent some time at the Capitol for this big hearing in late January. What do you say to people who are saying, like, okay, we understand there's an issue, but regulation isn't the answer?
Yeah, we hear that a lot.
What do you tell people that kind of give you that pushback, that more regulation, more rules, more government in this arena isn't exactly going to make things better? In fact, it could make it more complicated.
I think when we're talking about something that is such an outlier, an industry with no regulation, that is ubiquitous, meaning everybody, social media and big tech touches virtually everybody's life. Maybe not the Amish, maybe not the select few, but
being Amish is more and more attractive to me every day.
I agree. I mean, where's the piece of land? Let's go. So I think there is a really big challenge because right now the tech companies are protected by Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, which basically says they are not liable for the harmful content that is put on their platform, and it really protects them from litigation. Now, as you probably realize, all throughout the United States, people are suing these tech companies. Nothing has really been set as a precedent because all of it would be like everything is in process, right? These lawsuits. So it's not like we've had a big lawsuit win where it's like, okay, this is going to change everything. And so they're really trying to, I mean, you heard in the hearing, if you watched it, which a lot of parents did, which was really encouraging, Senator Graham talked about we need to open the courtroom door until these companies are feeling it in their bottom line, in their profit center. It's not going to change. We need to allow people to hold them accountable. And I think, it's like if you think about a safety seat or when your kid is born, when you drive home from the hospital, you have to have a safety seat in your back car. Unlike the days when you and I were born, where it's like, I literally remember my younger brother coming home in a laundry basket, like in the station wagon, right? So you have to. And that is something that those safety seats are created and manufactured with very certain specific requirements and regulations over that industry because it's meant to keep a kid safe, right? And if there was an accident and that safety seat did not perform, it was installed correctly and did not perform like it was supposed to, you would have recourse as a parent to sue that company, right? And so in effect, when we talk about we don't want the government being part of it, we're kind of asking parents to assemble their own safety seat according to the best practice recommendations for safety. And inevitably something goes wrong because there are a million things that have to be considered when you're talking about keeping your kid safe online. Even if you keep your kid out of, the arena. Let's say I'm not going to let them have social media. Well, there were parents at the hearing in attendance whose kids didn't have social media, but they were relentlessly harassed on social media, and that was brought to their attention, and they committed suicide. So now, is the government going to fix that situation? Maybe not. But just like we saw back in the 70s and 80s with big tobacco, when there is a lot of awareness around the harm of something, we can make better choices as a society. And so, there was nothing to protect when cigarettes started, going behind the counters and we've got this age limit and whatever. There was nothing to say a parent couldn't just give their kid a cigarette, right? And parents did. But the fact that all of society was starting to say, this is harmful, this is harmful, this is harmful, we've got to put some basic protections in place. And then we made big tobacco pay for the awareness campaign, right? We made them pay for all of the PR around it. That says something about what is important to us as a society. And that gets the message across to the young parents who are like, well, is it a big deal? And then, if they saw commercials rolling through telling them, yeah, actually social media can be harmful, it's not meant for younger kids, then maybe they would be like, oh, actually, I think maybe this isn't as good. We just got to turn the tide a little bit.
No. I get where your head's at. Part of me goes, I am very aware of the dangers, but I don't know if more regulation is going to wake up other parents.
Yeah, maybe not. But I do think if there is more regulation, it slows kids getting onto these platforms in a meaningful way. And when, we've talked and engaged with other people about these issues, it's like, man, if we could just wipe out the 5 million under 13s that are on social media, or 4 million, whatever it is, if we could wipe that out, if we could say, okay, these companies are doing more to be held, they're putting accountability things in place because they're mandated to. They're having to disclose how many under 13s are on there, not through a email or a report that now we have because, of a Freedom of Information Act or something, but they actually had to disclose what breaches there were in these safety protocols. That would go a long way in raising awareness. So we need both. It's like we need the minefields to stop coming into the homes, right? But we also need to help families know how to undetonate the mine. And so that's something that we do all the time. Like, how do we take this out of your home? How do we undetonate the mine? And we need these companies to stop addicting our kids. And when we were going around with all the students, that was one of the things that they said the most is, we're addicted to these things. We're addicted and they know it. And they're making money off of it.
Yeah, and that was baked right in when they created these apps.
Correct.
On how to hit those the dopamine receptors in these kids' brains.
Yes.
We're going to talk more with Sarah Segan, who's hanging out with us from Parents Who Fight, about KOSA, Kids Online Safety Act. I got it this time.
Yep.
All right. And if you have any questions about social media or how to keep your kids safe online, 615-737-9986. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at Paul Winkler, Inc. You know I have 4 great kids, but you probably don't know that me and my wife didn't have a plan for our financial stability as we move into the future. What does retirement look like? We had no idea. What does paying for college or weddings look like down the road? We didn't have a plan. And hope and a prayer wasn't going to cut it. And luckily, we have a plan now, because we linked up with Paul and his team at Paul Winkler, Inc. I've been a fan of Paul's radio show since I moved to Nashville, and I'll tell you this, you'll feel the same way if you like his show. He's the same guy that you hear on air. He's smart, he's funny, he knows what he's talking about, and he can break it down for you in a way that you'll understand. He did that for me. Now, Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required. Because of that, I'm required to tell you that I'm paid every time this commercial airs. That's the truth. But I'll tell you something else that's the truth. Paul's team doesn't work on commission. So when they're giving you financial advice, you can be sure it's for you and not for them, because they aren't paid to sell you products. They're just trying to give you a plan and information to make the right choice. Paul's a smart guy. He knows the financial world better than I do, and his team can set you up with realistic goals and an actual game-winning plan. Plus, they do that by educating you along the way with evidence-based Nobel Prize-winning research. If you don't have a financial plan, you should get one. Check these guys out. Every office is run by a degree planner with over 20 years of experience, and that experience is the difference. Talk to one of his team members today. Set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call right now on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com, or call 615-851-1950.
Rolling roadblocks to fix potholes. I-40 eastbound right before 65 west. It is stop and go from I-44, or rather I-440, that is, exit 206. Blood in the breezeway and flu blamed for more deaths in Tennessee. All this and more at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I am joined by Sarah Siegand in studio, who's with Parents Who Fight. You guys are a nonprofit advocacy group.
We're not nonprofit yet, but we are an advocacy group, and we basically exist to train parents in how to do all this.
Yes, and it's like, if you don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
And we have Griselda in Hermitage, who actually has a question for you, Sarah. Hey, Griselda, you're on Super Talk. What's up?
Thank you, Sarah, for the work you're doing. My question is, I'm sorry, I tuned in kind of late driving, but my question is, as far as resources go in terms of how to help us parents know how to monitor our children's accounts, or how to kind of, keep the reins in on that a little bit. My daughter's 16.
Okay.
So, and I trust her. I mean, she's, relatively responsible, but like you said, I mean, she's exposed to God knows what, and there's no way I could keep up with all of that myself. So what do you recommend?
Definitely. I mean, at 16, you're talking about an adult in training, right? So it'd be a totally different conversation if your daughter was 10, because we want parents to delay addictive technology and social media, et cetera, as long as they can. But at 16, these are the years for them to experience plenty of real world, what's the word I'm looking for? You want them to be experiencing some things where they're going to have to learn how to navigate that eventually without you. So having really in-depth conversations. There are some great resources that we recommend for parents of teenagers, one of which is the documentary Childhood 2.0. The reason why I think that's so fantastic is because it actually has teenage voices on it. There were several teenagers who were interviewed, and that is a great springboard as a parent, because then you can be like, has that ever happened to you?
Yeah.
And it sets the table for some real raw conversation. Another great resource is Fight the New Drug, which is dedicated to educating students about the harms of pornography. And that brings up a whole host of, discussions about what kinds of things your kids have been exposed to. When you have a daughter on social media, I think you have to be acutely aware of what kinds of body image and self-esteem stuff they're seeing. So girls are a lot more susceptible to self-harm and eating disorder content. So having conversations about that, you could just Google it. There's a great Dove commercial, like Dove as in the beauty products. It's like Dove Self-Esteem Project. And the girl's name is Mary. And it chronicles her life from getting a phone to social media and the eating disorder that happened. And I showed that to a group of teenage girls in my home, and they were like, I've never seen this. And it was very emotional for them to see that. So, you've got on your side some great media resources that set the table for that conversation. As far as monitoring what is actually happening on the phone or in their digital world, we look at layers. So obviously, if you have all kinds of technology in your home, you want something in your home that's going to help you just keep the worst of the worst out, right? So that's a Wi-Fi layer. Then there's a device layer that is like, okay, if she has an iPhone, do you have iOS screen time protections on that phone? Do you know what kind of apps are being downloaded? Are they requiring your permission? That's super helpful. And then when it comes to the app level themselves, basically you can, have conversations with your kids about, is this something where I'm going to have the password to? Can I put something like Bark on it? Can I get some of those notifications of the most harmful stuff that would happen?
And you have a list of all this stuff on your website, correct? What's your website, real quick?
ParentsWhoFight.com, and then you can just go to the resources tab. There's films, there's books, there's tech tools, there's blogs.
ParentsWhoFight.com. Click on resources. We're going to go to Ken Weaver in the news, and we'll be back with Sarah Siegand and Parents Who Fight right after. It's Super Talk.
Yeah, you got those rolling roadblocks to fix potholes. Left 2 lanes blocked, 40 eastbound right there at 65. And we'll have the full forecast for you here in 2 minutes. Tell you about the cold front coming. Right now in Nashville, Metro Police think robbery may be the motive behind one of the latest killings. 21-year-old Emmanuel Scott was found in the breezeway of the Charter Village Apartments on Rio Vista Drive yesterday. He had been shot multiple times. Police investigating after a man walked into a convenience store in Bellevue with a gunshot wound this morning. Reports say it was a Circle K on Highway 70. The man had been shot in the neck. Manhunt in Stewart County. Highway Patrol reportedly helping to find a suspect who took off from a traffic stop and is considered dangerous. The suspect identified as Edward Lovett, whom they think is somewhere in the Highway 120 area. And flu keeps killing people in Tennessee. Fox 17 says the State Department of Health has confirmed a 5th child has died from the flu so far this season in Tennessee. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at membersnutrition.com. We've been talking about them a lot, and it's important because it's important to know what's in your body. So literally, what's in your body? I mean, did you know that toxins are building up in your body that suppress your immune system and your ability to absorb nutrients and fight illness? And it's in everything. It's in the air we breathe. It's in the food we eat. And that excess waste is going to run you down. It's going to cause you to age prematurely. It's going to make you feel bloated, gross, sluggish. Well, you can actually take a proactive role by changing your body's oil with Members Nutrition's new Daily Defense Youthful Cleanse. You can get it at membersnutrition.com. This cleanse will help you take control of your life. It is made in the USA, and it will help you get your digestive health back to optimal levels. I've done it a couple times myself. It feels great. You can do it too. Go to membersnutrition.com if you're seeking that reliable, effective solution to support your digestive system. It's here, guys. It's at membersnutrition.com, and their advanced cleanse is precisely what you need to promote healthy gut and enhance overall wellness. That gut health is so huge, and this will help you. It's the Youthful Cleanse from membersnutrition.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, joined in studio by my friend Sarah Segan, who's with Parents Who Fight. Hello, Sarah.
Hello.
You're sharing, your experience with COSA, the Kids Online Safety Act, which happened towards the end of January in D.C. You were in the building. You were advocating to senators, and you've made a lot of progress.
Well, I would say we were one drop of the water of all the other drops of the water that came in like a flood to that couple of days around the hearing. There's a lot of legislation that, people are trying to get so that we can, keep kids from having sexual abuse material of them, thrown to every corner of the internet. There's a lot of push on that, which we're really, really thankful for the work that's being done on that. And what I think is one of the most beautiful things is like, you come and you feel like, man, I just have this small offering. I've got these 8 students is what we brought 8 students with us from 13 to 21. And you go around and you talk to different offices and you want to feel like you're making a difference, but there's this nagging voice that like maybe it doesn't matter. And then when you come out into the hall and you see all of these people who have come there for the same purpose, and you hear their stories, you hear the devastation that has happened to these families and these survivors, you realize, okay, just being here, like all of us together, we are showing up and saying, we have to change this. So that was what was so powerful. It was like, we have one little part, but everybody coming together made a huge difference to get more momentum for some of the legislation we're trying to get through.
I think it's exciting. I think something needs to be done. And you said you noticed something kind of correlating between what these kids have gone through on a lot of these platforms and also what age they started using it at.
Yes. So one of the things that we did in advance of our meetings, our advocacy meetings, the day before the hearing, is we asked the students who are part of our coalition, which is, about 40, to just send out a link to their friends and ask them for anonymous stories of how social media has impacted them. And we brought in those stories. And one of the questions, it was a really basic survey. It was like, what have you experienced? But one of the questions that we asked them to answer was what age they started using social media. And when we looked at all of the stories that we had, the ones that were the most intense all had these really young entry ages. And so even what we brought to the Senate offices, we brought this printout. It wasn't something that we were putting online. It was just for them of some of the stories. And we did not pick out like, oh, let's pick out the youngest ones. It was like literally every single story was 13 or under, other than a few. And so we've got something like this girl, Trisha, who's 14. She said, I did some things I'm not so proud of, and all of it got spread on Snapchat to everyone at school. I was so embarrassed and tried killing myself. The people told me to, and also I couldn't go back to school with everyone knowing that stuff. And Trisha started using social media at age 11. We have another girl that talks about how her For You page on Instagram, Instagram is suggesting it, right? Mm-hmm. So she opened her account at age 11, and Instagram is suggesting this stuff. Now you might say, wait a second, I thought you had to be at least 13. Well, that rule just started in the rule has been there. Instagram didn't start collecting birth dates until 2019. And this girl, she's 19 years old right now. So she was definitely, this is prior to 2019, and it was a checkbox. Are I certified that I am above 13 years old? Check. And so a lot of kids who are now in their 20s got onto social media at a very early age. And some of it before all this advocacy, even like for years, we were trying to get them to turn the DMs off to teenagers by default. So that, because prior to that effort, a lunatic could go, oh, everybody who follows this My Little Pony page, I'm going to message all of them, and I'm going to, see who I can get to take the bait. And I'm going to start talking to young girls. And so now, at least you can say, people who I don't follow can't direct message me.
Yep.
That was the kind of advocacy that, pushed that through. So unfortunately, a lot of these, students that have these horrible stories about friends dying, about the TikTok challenges that sent them to the emergency room, their ages getting into social media was prepubescent. And so you're thinking about what their brains need at that age and what they truly cannot handle.
And I think one of the things that I really like about you guys at Parents Who Fight, and you can find parentswhofight.com, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so parentswhofight.com, all the resources you provide, but one of your biggest suggestions is delay.
Yes. Huge. It's the thing that's totally free. What it costs you is your sanity, because your kids want all the things, right? And so if you can, 5 years prior to you think you being comfortable for your kid having a phone. So if that number is 13 for you, then by 8, you're saying, well, when you get a phone, it's going to be a kid-safe phone. It's not going to be an iPhone, because mom and dad have iPhones. Everybody just, pause and think about how Apple has never made an Apple Junior phone. Mm-hmm. Do you think they have the money and the resources and the engineering to do that? Yes, they do. They have not. And they will not, my guess is. So what our thought is, since most kids would totally prefer an iPhone, is you're like, okay, we're going to put iPhone way out here in the distance. We're going to give you some training first, because iPhones are really challenging to protect your kids on. Yes, they do have some screen time settings. They do work. If you have a phone that is an iPhone 11 or newer, and if everything gets updated just like it's supposed to, which, spoiler alert, kids' phones don't automatically update when they don't have enough space. And I don't know about you, but I know a lot of kids who run out of space on their iPhones.
Well, and there's also the worry that your kid might be more tech savvy than you.
100%. Yeah. And so kids learn how to get around things. They learn how to turn off their phone and turn it back on so they can have 1 minute. So there are a lot of challenges with the iPhone route. And we think, wait till adult and training years for something like that. Start your kid on a kid-safe phone when it's necessary. Do they have a job? Do they have a club at school that they need to be involved in? And when I say necessary, I mean like 13, 14, not 10. And there is research now that shows that adult long-term mental health, so people in their 20s, there is a correlation between their early adoption of a smartphone. So the ones who got phones earlier have worse declared mental health status in their 20s. So we can see that there's this correlation of early adoption. We want our kids to be kids longer. We want to limit the number of influences that are tearing away at the values we're trying to put inside of them, right? And so the only way you can really do that is to allow your kid to be like a 1985 kid for as long as possible, including iPads and everything. A lot of parents will say, I don't have a phone. My kid doesn't have a phone, but they have a full-fledged iPad that basically does everything a phone would do. It's just not in their pocket.
Yep. And they're still in all the group chats and all the things.
Correct. So when you start with a kid-safe phone, you can eliminate a lot of drama. You can start your kid slow. And it's like sometimes the objective when you start with a kid-safe phone and your kid is, 13 or 14 is like, do you remember to charge it? Do you keep track of it? Do you break it? Do you know how to answer mom and dad when we need to reach you? There's like so many skills that go. I got a smartphone when I was 37. That was my first smartphone, right? So I was not learning this with a 10-year-old brain. So we want to give them the opportunity to be in nature, connect with their family, connect with their friends, develop skills, learn some music, learn crafting, whatever it is, prior to the demands of technology, and just let them be kids longer.
No, I think that's the best plan. I mean, that's what we're trying to do at my house, but it gets harder. And
Yes.
then as it gets harder, you kind of want more from these big tech companies. I read a story the other day, and it's just honestly insane. Meta was letting parents sell pictures of their kids
Yes.
on Instagram in bathing suits and using the subscription model. Like, these companies are evil.
That's why we're talking about the features of these products. So when we talk about regulation, it's not like we're, regulating all of the content, regulating how you're going to use it. We're talking about the way these products are designed. Why is that even a thing? Why is it even possible for me to sell exclusive pictures to, whatever? I heard a story the other day. I don't know if this is through an official feature on Snapchat, but a young man was telling me he knows a guy like right here in our community who basically connects with girls to like pimp out their pictures. So you take a sexy picture of yourself, maybe it's not completely nude. I will find a buyer for it and we'll split the costs. And this is like a business model for a high school student, right? So the fact that we can't get our arms around and say there need to be guidelines. There need to be guidelines because so many people are abusing the technology. And the biggest way they're abusing technology is against the kids.
Yep.
The most vulnerable.
So really what you're advocating for is more scrutiny on the features inside the products, not necessarily on the content for your average user.
Correct. Well, there are some content categories that are labeled as harmful. And so we want those to be free from algorithmic weight. There's no reason why somebody showing themselves cutting their arm with a razor blade should be suggested to anybody.
Yeah.
Right? So
That makes
there's
sense.
categories of harm that we want taken out of that like magnetization to the students. And some of the challenge has come with what categories of harm are included. And when COSA had a really difficult summer last summer because there were people saying this is going to censor content that needs to get to certain groups. And largely we're talking about what people's perception is of sexual content. And this is why I say for parents, like just keep your kid off as long as you can. You don't need to be exposing your kid, whether that platform has the same definition of the sexual content as you do. Like, let's just, forget about it. But that is the big piece, is that people were saying, those who are sexually curious as minors want to be able to find all kinds of content, and we cannot inhibit that. So that was the biggest challenge. And now my understanding is the way that all of the tweaks have come through COSA is that we are focusing on the features. We're focusing on what is being algorithmically suggested to the students and what opportunities parents might have to mitigate some harm on behalf of their minor student's account.
I get that. All right, so Sarah Segan works for Parents Who Fight. You can go to parentswhofight.com for more information. You guys provide a ton of resources. Give me your top 3 for parents that aren't tech savvy, what they need to know.
What they need to know. First would be delay. That's like a resource that is ubiquitous. But there are some amazing, if you are on social media as a parent, there are some amazing resources that you should avail yourself to. One is a ginormous Facebook group called Parenting in a Tech World. It is run by the folks at Bark. However, you don't have to like or use Bark products to get in it. It's essentially a 400,000 plus audience to say, hey, I can't get this thing to work on my kid's iPhone. Anybody have ideas? And they will pop right up. I mean, I've gone to it so many times when I am stumped by something on behalf of a parent. So that is a great resource because you can ask your specific question.
And what was the name of that again?
Parenting in a Tech World. It's
That's
a Facebook group. Yes. And then on podcasts, there's a couple of really amazing podcasts that have up-to-date resources all the time. One is Protect Young Eyes, and one of my new favorites is this podcast called Scrolling to Death. And that lady just gets so, I mean, she's like on the button. Something happens, she records something and sends it out. And then we also love the people at Better Screen Time. They give great tips on how to untangle your kids with tech. And finally, Parent Pro Tech. That's one of our favorites as well. Those guys are making sure that parents understand what their kids are up against, and they give great tutorials.
Cool. I love it. Do you guys have any workshops coming up that you want people to know about?
We are looking to get some online workshops scheduled in the spring. So if you go to our website and sign up for our list, you will be emailed those dates and times.
Perfect. This is Sarah Segan joining us from Parents Who Fight, online at parentswhofight.com. If you have a kid, you have questions about tech, this is an incredible resource, and it's based right here in Tennessee, parentswhofight.com. Sarah, thank you again, as always.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
we appreciate you. Yeah, and you're my go-to for this kind of stuff.
Awesome.
So
glad.
Anytime I have a question, I'm going to reach out to you.
Thank you.
Of course. Parentswhofight.com. We got more on the way. It's 10:53 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Later this week at the border with Mexico, Fox News says President Biden and former President Trump will be there on the same day. Trump's going to deliver remarks in Eagle Pass on Thursday, and President Biden scheduled to visit Brownsville, Texas, to meet with Border Patrol agents and others. And tomorrow, President Biden will try to get House Speaker Mike Johnson on board with the bill passed in the U.S. Senate that had money for Ukraine. Johnson and other Republicans have said no more money for Ukraine until that southern border is secure. Meanwhile, in the Israel-Hamas war, the White House saying a tentative agreement has been reached on the framework for a temporary ceasefire. Here's Tom Sufi Burridge in Tel Aviv.
White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warning Sunday that a major Israeli military operation in Rafah should not proceed unless there is a clear and executable plan to protect civilians, something U.S. officials say they have not yet seen.
Yeah, over the weekend, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said a military operation there could be delayed if a new ceasefire deal can be reached with Hamas. Meanwhile, President Biden inviting House Speaker Mike Johnson and the other three leaders in Congress to discuss additional funding for Ukraine. That'll be tomorrow. And in Nashville, Metro Police think robbery could be the motive behind one of the latest killings. 21-year-old Emmanuel Scott was found in the breezeway of the Charter Village Apartments on Rio Vista Drive yesterday. He had been shot multiple times. Police investigating after a man walked into a convenience store in Bellevue this morning. He had a gunshot wound to his neck. This was the Circle K on Highway 70. Manhunt in Stewart County, the Highway Patrol reportedly helping to find a suspect who took off from a traffic stop and is considered dangerous. The suspect identified as Edward Lovett, who they think is somewhere in the Highway 120 area. And flu keeps killing people in Tennessee. Fox 17 says the State Department of Health confirming a fifth child has died from it so far this season in Tennessee. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
.05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thanks again to Sarah Segan and Parents Who Fight, parentswhofight.com for coming in to chat with us. We kind of have been talking today about Nikki Haley losing one of her biggest financial backers in Americans for Prosperity, the Koch brothers outfit. They're tired of her wasting money. They just are. They're over it. And voters in South Carolina chose Trump. That's just what happened. Nikki Haley's trying to say, yeah, I got 40%, 39.5. But she said, I got 40% of the vote. That's not bad. Well, it is bad because, open primaries, right? And the 40% of her vote, it actually it's not a good look. So she says 40% of Republicans, right? But South Carolina is an open primary. And for the past several months, Haley and her supporters on the political left have been targeting Democrats and non-Republicans to vote for her in the race. And the data from Saturday night showed that Nikki Haley had some Democrat and independent support in that 40%. She just did. Those are just the facts. And it seems like so much of the Nikki Haley campaign is propped up by Democrats and independents that only care about damaging Trump. And then when he wins, the media is just so upset about it. Joy Reid on MSNBC blamed white people and evangelicals.
About the makeup of this electorate. I mean, this is 92% white, overwhelmingly evangelical Christian primary electorate in South Carolina. And I think writ large around the country, that is the way they think. I mean, even among the independent voters.
That's just such a racist thing. Like, if I went and was like, well, of course, politician X won Detroit. I mean, it's a overwhelmingly black area, and that's just how they think. People would decry you as racist, but she's allowed to just totally bash white people and evangelicals for the crime of living in South Carolina and voting for Trump.
Who are about, 21% of this electorate. It's like almost a 50-50 question as to whether President Biden is the legitimate president of the United States. That is what the Republican Party is now.
Yeah, that's what the Republican Party is now. I'm sorry that people have questions about the 2020 election. What a crime. What a crime. I mean, is it a shocker that we have questions about how Biden won? He campaigned from his basement. We don't have to get into how the media covered up the Hunter Biden laptop. And they want to carry water for Biden. That's fine. Do you know that he's constantly using cheat sheets now? Joe Biden is. He used to have his note cards when he would take questions from the press, the pre-lined up questions. But now there's reports that he's even using these cheat sheets at private fundraisers. And it's alarming Democrat donors. Wealthy backers are saying he even refers to notes when he's taking questions away from the press. Daily Mail has this story. Joe Biden long brandished note cards at the White House and in sit-downs with world leaders. But now donors are throwing a flag on his use of cheat sheets, even in closed-door private events. Closed-door private events. They say Biden has already broken with traditional expectation that donors writing big checks to his campaigns are entitled to a more off-the-cuff version of the president during closed-door fundraisers. But now he's relying on teleprompters in those settings, sometimes giving versions of his public speeches inside well-appointed homes, as he did during a fundraising swing through California this week. So he's regurgitating the speeches that people have already heard, and he's doing so in these private fundraiser settings with the help of teleprompters and note cards. And it's making some donors, I'll quote the Daily Mail article, squawk at the president's use of note cards. They're squawking. And these people are propping up Biden, and they prop up Nikki Haley. Orange man bad, anybody but Trump. Right? That's the way we're going. Even CNN, when they were talking about the Trump victory in South Carolina, said it's an amazing political comeback.
RIP the Reagan GOP. There's something so jarring about watching Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott, all of who condemned him after January 6th, lining up to do their best campaign rally impersonation and saying this is the most qualified man to be president.
The night of January 6th, Lindsey Graham was saying he was,
I'm done with him.
Enough.
I mean, listen, it is the greatest political comeback in history. Just 3 years ago, he was done in the party, and it only took a matter of months before he came back and handily won in Nikki Haley's home state.
Yep. Beat Nikki in her home state. Now, CNN really wants to downplay the win. They're like, can you believe this? People that said that they were done. Lindsey Graham actually got booed by the audience in South Carolina. And I don't know about you. I don't really want Lindsey Graham in this party. I think it's important to remind people who Lindsey Graham is.
Well, I tell you where I'm not under fire, and that's in South Carolina. I spent the weekend at home, and let's just say this. The only thing I got going for me is 90% of the South Carolinians.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome United States Senator Lindsey Graham.
They're booing him.
I was born in this county. I live 15 miles down the road.
Well, I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy. He's going to take all the problems of the world and put them in a box and make your life better. That's what he's selling. Here's what you're buying. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. And you know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell. I think his campaign is opportunistic, race-baiting, religious bigotry, xenophobia. Other than that, he'd be a good nominee. I hadn't spent any time on the Clinton email investigation, and I don't want to try her. Can you imagine what it'd be like to go back and try your political opponent? If you can't admire Joe Biden as a person, then it's probably you got a problem.
This is Lindsey Graham.
He is as good a man as God ever created. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are lawfully elected and will become the president and the vice president of the United States on January the 20th. I don't believe the election was stolen.
You don't believe the election was stolen. Do you want Donald Trump, if he is looking ahead to 2024, to stop saying that?
If he runs for president, talking about 2020 is not what people want to hear.
It sounds like you're saying point blank, Donald Trump, please stop saying the 2020 election was over.
I'm telling President Trump, you want to be president in 2024, focus on solving the problems Americans are living with. He's told me 1,000 times and everybody else, I didn't collude with no Russians. Well, we'll find out whether that's true or not. This is for Mr. Mueller to determine. We're not going to stop looking at the president because he claims the New York Times was fake news.
Lindsey Graham coming on stage to celebrate with Trump in South Carolina, getting booed. It's like, this guy tells us all the time who he is. Why can't we just believe him? I'm tired of these fake Republicans, whether it's Senator Lindsey Graham or it's Nikki Haley. At least the Democrats tell you who they are, right? At least the Democrats don't have any fear and will just tell you that they hate Trump. Lindsey Graham will come on stage and celebrate him, but then we have minutes of audio of him saying the exact opposite.
Say that Mueller is a good guy, right?
That's been my experience, yes.
And you'll do anything necessary to protect him from being interfered with when it comes to doing his job.
Absolutely.
We have now evidence that Hunter Biden's communicating in some kind of business deal that's gotten off track. Tapes regarding Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, phone call potentially to somebody in Ukraine. I don't know if that's accurate or not. Well, let me just say this. I've known President Biden for a long time. I don't think I'd be shocked if there's anything sinister here. I think Liz Cheney is an invaluable member of the Republican Party. No, I don't want her to go anywhere. I think she should stay in leadership from my point of view because her voice is very important for the Republican Party.
And folks, I am from South Carolina. God bless President Trump. God bless America.
Let's just remember who this guy is. And we need to take note of these fake Republicans. We really have to. The Nikki Haleys of the world, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, they're in the same league as Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. Adam Kinzinger, by the way, did you see what he tweeted over the weekend? It's kind of remarkable that he tweeted this. On Saturday, He sent out a tweet celebrating the death of 400,000 Russians. This is what he said. He said, what's the difference between February 24th, 22 and February 24th, 2024? Answer, 400,000 fewer Russians. Slava Ukraine. Now, I understand he's a pro-Ukraine guy, but why celebrate the death of people? It just is not a good look. This is that warmonger, weak neocon Republican class that we need to get rid of in this party. Lindsey Graham is just like Adam Kinzinger, who's just like Nikki Haley, who's just like Liz Cheney. And I think that we need to just shun them from our party. Earlier this week, Ukrainian military claimed that the Russian military had suffered 400,000 casualties since its invasion in 22. Former U.S. Representative for Ukraine negotiations Kurt Volker told Newsweek that nobody really knows the accurate numbers, but it didn't stop Kinzinger from hopping on social media to celebrate it. One of the things I really liked about Trump is that he acknowledged death on both sides and didn't want it at all. Even in the Middle East, he would say, there's a lot of deaths on both sides. Like, we need to stop that. And that's why Trump got in office and started no new wars. Because this death and destruction has just got to stop. And Adam Kinzinger, to go on the internet and celebrate it like it's some good thing that almost 500,000 people have died. Like, what a loser. What an absolute loser. Over the weekend also, we had CPAC happening. Do you know who they have for their... They did a straw poll for top VP pick for Trump. And the two big winners in their straw poll between CPAC attendees, they were split between Vivek Ramaswamy and Kristi Noem. That's interesting. Donald Trump Jr. says he wants Tucker. It says he says that the decision has a long way to go, but that he would like to see someone like Tucker Carlson. I would like to see Tucker Carlson as well.
Long way to go. That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah. And then the straw poll at CPAC was Vivek and Kristi Noem.
Because it's not that long. As far as time's concerned, we don't have a long way to go.
No, but they also, Trump is on record saying it doesn't really matter who I choose as VP.
Would you agree with that?
I think that his base is voting for him. He could pick a cardboard box.
Yeah.
And the base is voting for him. I would vote for Trump cardboard 2024. Right? Wouldn't you? Who wouldn't? Vivek was one of the guys that got the big straw poll win alongside Kristi Noem at CPAC over the weekend. This is part of his speech at CPAC, and this is one of the reasons why a lot of people like him.
If we've had the largest influx of migrants into our country in American history, then yes, it is time to have the largest mass deportation in American history as well. That's not racist. That's not xenophobic. Look at me, people. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America. That's not too much to ask. The people we elect to run the government should run the government. And the moral duty they owe is to the citizens of this nation, not any other one.
Amen. Not any other one. You get fake Republicans like Adam Kinzinger who think that the moral duty of our nation is to take care of Ukraine. Vivek Ramaswamy is the complete opposite of that. And he says, this is how we get our country back.
How we get this country back? How do we get those ideals back? I'll tell you, this is how. The best measure of our country's health, is it the number of green pieces of paper in our bank account? Is it the number of ballots that get cast every November? These things are important, but it's not the most important thing. The best measure of our country's health is the percentage of people who feel free to say what they actually think in public. Right now, we're doing poorly. The only way we're going to do better is by all of us, not just me, not just Donald Trump, all of us starting to speak the truth in the open again.
I agree with part of that. I think another way that we talk about the health of our nation is how we take care of the most vulnerable. Are we looking out for our kids? Are we looking out for our retired veterans? Because we're failing in a lot of those arenas as well. Completely failing. But I like Vivek. A lot of people think he's still a plant. I don't think he's a plant. But I think having your reservations about somebody and not jumping all in before you kind of learn more from him is the route to go. Because we've seen it time and time again. A lot of these Republicans will just lie to your face for your vote and then do something completely different in office. It's 11:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. It's cold, it's hot, it's cold, it's hot. So it's time to make sure your system is working the best way, the Busy Bee way, with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Because we're almost at that time of year, we're going to be kicking on your heat in the morning and kicking on your AC in the afternoon. And if one of those aren't working the way it should, you're going to notice it pretty soon. And you don't want to wait for a problem to pop up with your heat this time of the year or your AC. Be proactive and keep your unit in tip-top shape. Now, maybe towards the end of the summer, your AC stopped working, right? And you're like, I'm going to kick the can down the road. I'm not going to replace it just yet. But as we creep closer and closer to the summer, that problem is getting a lot closer. Well, if you need to replace your AC system, you're not going to find a better value on replacement systems than the guys over at Busy Bee. They offer up to 12 months, no payment, no interest with approved credit. And it'll also pay in so many ways to sign up for that annual maintenance on your plumbing, heating, and air systems from Busy Bee. And you can get added rewards and savings on that by becoming a Beehive member. That'll get you front-of-the-line service, that thorough annual maintenance on your plumbing, heating, and air systems. It'll make sure you have no overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs. It will pay for itself. Plus, the guys at Busy Bee have convenient Saturday availability for those maintenance calls. Busy Bee, they're your Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. 615-775-7833. That's 615-775-7833. Online at busybeehvac.com.
Right now, several agencies are assisting in the search for a missing 15-year-old boy out of Sumner County. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was last seen this morning near Stafford Court. That's Stafford Court in Hendersonville. He was wearing a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants, and glasses. He is white and has brown hair. You're asked to call 1-800-TBI-FIND if you can help or have seen this boy. Major developments impacting millions of grocery shoppers in the United States. We'll tell you about these stories at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Tom in the borough wants to talk about Adam Kinzinger. Tom, what's going on, man? You're on Super Talk.
How you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
One of the things, not too bad. One of the things that never really gets brought up, as a Republican, during January 6th, he didn't leave his office, go downstairs and say, hey, folks, I'm Republican too. Let's calm down. No, what he did was he ran away. By his own words, when he sat on the committee and cried. But what a lot of people don't know about Mr. Kinzinger is he's a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force. Now, if we want to go ahead and believe the Democrats, and January the 6th was an uprising, wouldn't that be running away from the enemy? And why isn't he being held responsible for that? He's a freaking coward.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I don't have anything nice to say about Adam Kinzinger.
Well, that was the nicest thing I could say about Adam Kinzinger. On the radio, anyways.
No, I hear you. Yeah, and he cried. He did. Tearful.
And if you want to follow what they said about January the 6th, then as an officer in the United States Air Force, does that not make him a coward? And does that not mean that he ran from the enemy?
It certainly sounds like that if you're following his logic, right?
So I just would like to go ahead and know when that inquiry is going to start. I would be interested to see it.
Yeah, you and me both. I appreciate the call, Tom. Thanks so much, man. Yeah, let's see an inquiry into that. Also, breaking yesterday, Ronna McDaniel, Mitt Romney's niece, as everybody affectionately knows her. I saw you almost hit the button.
I did.
You thought about it.
I did. I kind of,
Well, whenever we bring up Mitt Romney's name, it's like it's hard not to click that.
I love hot dogs.
She's announced she's officially stepping down from the RNC on March 8th. On March 8th. Do we have to wait?
It's like 2 more weeks.
Let me put in my 2-week notice. She said she's stepping down. It's been the privilege of her life to serve the RNC for 7 years as chairwoman, to elect Republicans and grow our party. Did she do either of those things? Do you think Ronna McDaniel actually got Republicans elected or helped grow our party? Anyway, she's stepping down. So we have one less rhino to deal with. McDaniel obviously has faced a ton of criticism in the last year because of her position as RNC chair. She released a letter earlier in February saying that the rumors of her stepping down were just that, rumors, and she wouldn't be stepping down. We all knew this was coming. It looks to be official. And on March 8th, I just want to know who's bringing cake. Are you bringing cake?
Oh, yeah.
I want to have a party.
Let's go. Yeah, let's party it up.
All right, so let's hold on. So that's a Friday, too.
Oh, that's perfect.
We should do something special.
Yes. Agenda-free Friday / party to celebrate no more Ronna McDaniel.
We should get a piñata. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in Middle Tennessee, an endangered child alert issued for 15-year-old Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. This is on behalf of the Sumner County Sheriff's Office. He was seen earlier today near Stafford Court in Hendersonville wearing a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants, and glasses. He has brown hair. And if you have any information, you're asked to call 1-800-TBI-FIND. Right now in America, an update to a situation that could impact millions of grocery shoppers. The Federal Trade Commission suing to block a proposed merger between Kroger and Albertsons, saying the $24.5 billion deal could eliminate competition and lead to higher prices. Southern border security update. Dueling appearances scheduled on Thursday. President Biden goes to the Mexico border city of Brownsville, Texas, while on the same day, former President Trump will make a similar visit to Eagle Pass, Texas. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
4 years ago, I told you that if crooked Joe Biden got to the White House, our borders would be abolished, our middle class would be decimated, and our communities would be plagued by bloodshed, chaos, and violent crime. We were right about everything. So believe me when I offer you another warning, and we've been right about so much, just about everything. If crooked Joe Biden and his thugs win in 2024, the worst is yet to come.
You got to believe him when he tells you it, because he was right about everything else. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. That was Donald Trump at CPAC over the weekend, talking about Biden and his disasters that were so easily predictable, yet everyone acts surprised and shocked. Or, even worse, they just don't cover it at all. Like Gavin Newsom says, Biden's got an extraordinary record. It's extraordinary. Trump also said a vote for him is a passport out of tyranny.
A vote for Trump is your ticket back to freedom. It's your passport out of tyranny, and it's your only escape from Joe Biden and his gang's fast track to hell. And in many ways, we're living in hell right now. Because the fact is, Joe Biden is a threat to democracy.
Oh, there it is. He's a threat to democracy. I know we'll get a lot of the text about it's a constitutional republic. I understand. But let's talk about it. Joe Biden's the one weaponizing the justice system to go after his political opponent. Joe Biden is the one that has Jan 6ers locked up. Joe Biden is the one that mandated the vaccines on everybody. Have you heard about Fani Willis and Nathan Wade and their latest updates?
It's funny. Just kidding.
You're no longer invited to the pizza party celebrating Ronna McDaniel stepping down his RNC chair.
Just kidding. It's Fanny.
That's letting you know. All right. Their invitation's been revoked. All right. So apparently cell phone data had pinged that Nathan Wade was at Fani Willis's residence where she lays her head 3 dozen times.
Whoa.
Before he was hired. Overnight.
Wow.
Pinged him in the evening. Pinged him in the morning.
Whew.
Pinged him all the time. Unbelievable. And info is coming out that Nathan Wade was making the decisions to hire or fire employees in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office following Fani Willis's election victory in November 2020. Multiple sources familiar with Wade and Willis's relationship exclusively told this to Breitbart News. Now, the revelation of Wade's previously unreported position as the former personnel decision maker for the district attorney's office raises ethical and conflict of interest concerns. It also raises questions about whether Wade and Willis had been forthright about the timeline of their affair. Well, of course they haven't been forthright because of the cell phone data that was recovered. Wade and Willis claim their relationship started in 2022 after Willis launched the probe into former President Trump. But sources say Wade and Willis obviously had an ongoing romantic relationship at the time Willis won her election, saying there was something so weird going on. Of course, you'll remember Fani Willis just losing her mind on the bench, right, and sitting in the hot seat.
See, what you don't understand is because of this case, I got to move. And so I need
if you could ask a more precise question.
Yes, please, give me the time period.
Mr. Wade visits you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And it is a lie. It is a lie.
Well, it wasn't a lie. The cell phone data proved it 3 dozen times. 3 dozen times. And he was helping hire and fire people during her transition. She's got to be removed from this case, right? I would assume that she has to. But, you know, the political persecutions persist. Trump actually brought this up at CPAC and says, you know, he would rather lose his freedom than give up running for president.
I would rather lose my freedom than surrender to this group of thugs and tyrants, fascists, scoundrels, and rogues. The more the corrupt establishment tries to stop us, the more you know the day is near at hand when we will break free from their grip. We're going to break free very soon.
I always say it's like you know that you're over the target when you're being attacked. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of people gravitate towards Trump so much is they see him being attacked nonstop. And they see the people that are doing the attacking as corrupt, morally bankrupt individuals. And these same individuals are leaving our southern border wide open, not doing what needs to be done, sending money out of the country to Ukraine. Like that's more of a concern than American citizens. Letting illegal aliens get our VA benefits that should be going to our veterans. It's just unreal. And all the while they attack Trump. The whole time. You know, and the people that are coming to our southern border, not the best. Trump mentioned this at CPAC as well.
And they do come from prisons and mental institutions, and they are terrorists. And we're going to be paying a price, and it'll be the largest deportation in the history of our country. And we have no choice. And it's not a nice thing to say, and I hate to say it. And those clowns in the media will say, oh, he's so mean. He said, no, they're killing our people. They're killing our country. They're killing our people. We have no choice.
It's the truth, and they are. They are. I'm sure by now you've heard of Laken Riley, who is the latest American woman to allegedly be killed by an illegal alien. February 22nd, she went for a morning jog along the University of Georgia's campus in Athens, where she had been since 2023. When she did not return, a roommate called police who started a search for Riley. And it was hours later, her body was found in a wooded area near Lake Herrick. Police say her body showed visible injuries. The following day, the police arrested 26-year-old Jose Ibarra, an illegal alien from Venezuela, who had been deported already. How did this guy get into the country? Oh, the wide open southern border. And there's dozens of these cases. Dozens. Kayla Hamilton, July 27, 2022, days after her 20th birthday, found dead on the floor of her bedroom in Maryland. According to prosecutors, an illegal alien and MS-13 gang member went into Hamilton's bedroom and strangled her. And more. The illegal alien was arrested in January 2023 after it took police months to lock him down as the suspect. In May of 2023, a bombshell report released by the House Judiciary Committee revealed that the illegal alien MS-13 gang member had been released into the U.S. Interior after arriving at the southern border in May of 2022, posing as an unaccompanied alien child and claiming to be fleeing gang violence. We can keep going. There's so many of these stories. And this is why we need a real leader in there, somebody that's actually going to fix the problems we have. And somebody that's going to empower the people that are in positions to fix these problems to be able to do it. Trump talks about at CPAC how, the police in our country can't do their job because they're not allowed to.
We have the greatest law enforcement people in the world, but they're not allowed to do their job. It's the same exact thing. Chicago could be solved in one day. New York could be solved in a half a day. The New York police, I grew up with them. They're the greatest people. Now, a lot of them have left and they've gone down to other states and they've retired.
And we know that from personal experience. How many retired Chicago police officers do we have calling here all the time? So many. They get out of these communities because they're not allowed to do their job. and the states are total disasters.
But you have great people, and they can do their job if they're allowed to do their job, but they don't want to lose their pension. They don't want to lose everything. When you see these department stores where 300, 400, usually kids walk in there with the masks on and rob the store, destroy the store, millions of dollars, then the store closes, the whole thing starts to collapse, the city. I could solve that problem in one day, in 1 hour, in 1 minute. When the word got out that we took a very tough action.
And that's really what you need to do. Nobody thinks that there's going to be tough action on criminal acts anymore, so they're emboldened to continue doing criminal acts. There's a story out of California, of course, right? California. Shocker, where there's an old hardware store, and they're only letting people shop one at a time. They have to follow their customers around the store. If police were allowed to arrest shoplifters, this stuff wouldn't happen.
For a few hours every day, this is what you'll find entering Frederickson's Hardware and Paint in Cow Hollow. The table alerts customers to wait for assistance at the door, a move that's being attributed to, quote, rampant shoplifting.
It's pretty bad. I mean, the dollar amounts are pretty significant, and with the tools, and now we're getting snatch and grabs where they come in and take whole displays. So it's getting kind of dangerous for the employees and the customers.
This could be over if the police were allowed to do their job. But they're not. Everything's been decriminalized. And then you think, Biden's not going to make it to the election. But the guy that a lot of people pin to replace Biden as the nominee for the Democrat Party is the one running that lousy state of California, Gavin Newsom.
Look, a lot of people think Gavin Newsom is going to run. In a certain way, I hope so. Because he's destroyed California. He's destroyed it. But he's got a hell of a line of crap.
He's got a hell of a line of crap. He does. Fact check that. It's true. Don't waste your time. You have to fact check it. I got you. It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Chris Hand joined in studio by a man that can't decide what he hates more, cartoon pigs or children.
Or cartoon children.
Or cartoon children.
Or I kind of like actual pigs. I thought for a minute, I struggled with this, Hand. I try not to be a hypocrite. I live my life in a manner where I try to be consistent in my positions on issues. And I thought about getting a pet pig.
Really? Like a pocket pig?
Yeah, like something like that. Like a little pot-bellied or whatever. And I realized I could not continue to eat bacon and sausage if I had a pig. I felt that was coming. I saw that in the distance. So I said, well, no pet pig. But then it identified a bit of a hypocrisy in myself. I'm at a point in my life, I have no interest in killing the animal. I like eating them, but I don't even like my food to look like an animal. Like one of those fancy restaurants.
Dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets are out?
Well, dinosaurs are real. We're talking about real animals, Chris. I'm talking about fake animals. Come on. So, you know what I mean, though? Is like the more it, like if I get a rotisserie chicken from one of the rotisserie chicken places, if I think about it long enough, I won't want to eat it.
Really?
Because it's got little legs and arms, and it used to have a head and feet.
You're very complex.
So if you go to one of those fancy restaurants where they bring you, a whole lobster or fish with the head still on, I'm out. I'm not into all that. But anyway, that was my weekend. Thinking about these types of things.
This is what keeps you up at night.
So I have can I just submarine the segment? I have a serious question.
Yeah.
And this is a serious. It's born of listening to your show, paying attention, and trying to learn something. So I'm not a part of any club that would have me as a member. I'm well established on that. But like you and I are friends. Do we have time for this? What time is it? How much time do we have?
We got time.
Yeah, you've got some time.
Okay. Wait, it's my show next. Just push it back. I don't care. Let's go into my show. So, and this is a sincere question. So you and I are friends. Mm-hmm. I think we're friends. We're certainly colleagues, and I have great respect for you. We disagree on things.
Yeah, we're good.
And it's okay.
But we're human.
Why aren't Republicans like that?
What do you mean?
Republicans aren't like that.
In what sense?
It seems to me that when Republicans disagree, they decide I'm the real Republican and you're not the real Republican, and so I'm right, you're wrong, based on that analysis on how I define Republicanism.
I think it would have to depend on what issue we're discussing.
See, I think voters decide what Republicans are based on how they vote.
Yeah, but there's also like Adam Kinzinger. Would you consider him a real Republican?
Is Adam Kinzinger currently in the House of Representatives?
Liz Cheney?
Currently in the House of Representatives?
Mitt Romney?
About to be out of the Senate?
Lindsey Graham.
But see, there you go. So I think Republicans have a genuine schism about where they are. And once again, this is from a guy on the outside looking in, so I don't pretend to understand it like maybe I should. I think there's a genuine schism on the war thing amongst Republicans.
Yeah.
So I think that's a legitimate debate, but I don't think that makes Lindsey Graham not a Republican.
I think that he is I feel like he is so weak. He bashes Trump when he thinks it's politically the right move, and then he loves him when he thinks it's politically the right move. I think that because he's changing his position depending on which way he thinks the political winds are blowing.
So if I disagree with Donald Trump, I'm not supposed to say so?
No, I think that's fine to say so, but I don't think that it would be fine to say so if you think he's going to be the nominee. You know what I mean? Like, so as soon as he thinks Trump is going to be the nominee, now he loves Trump again. But on January 6th, he was bashing him.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the specific of the example. I just, more broadly, it's a very, very curious topic that I've had in my head for a long time. And you lied to me, Maury. You said we had plenty of time.
I said 57. That's 2 minutes. It's not that much time.
I thought
it's a fascinating conversation that you brought up.
I did bring it up.
I want to continue. And I'm also going to talk about this Georgia case with this university. It's actually Augusta University student who was on the campus of Athens who got killed by a illegal alien, how the media is treating it, and all the and AG Skermetti on the way.
Super Talk.